Hey there, adventurers. I'm Norwolf. Welcome to my role-playing game realm and to session 13 of my Powers and Perils solo play. Right, before we get back to our adventures, I wanted to cover off a couple things from our last session. First off, Gildor had gone through the efforts of using one of his spells to translate the two dispatches that the Orc leader had in his possession that were written in Orcish, and nobody in our little group here could actually read Orcish. So I modified one of the spells a bit to cover off being able to do translations. And but the thing I didn't do is actually explain what he read in those two dispatches. So in the first one, it was a letter basically directing the Orc leader, Urgak, to head into the kingdom of Keton with the intent of disrupting the movement of metals coming out of the kingdom's main mine area, which is, if I get to the map here. So the Keton mine area is in the mountains over here. And they were basically, those orcs are along this roadside between Gold Edge and the Keton mines. So he and a small band were to test the strength of the defenses in the area and look for a suitable location to establish a fortified raiding camp. And it also mentions that additional troops would be provided in about a month's time to build out and equip the fort that they were to eventually build, kind of somewhere in that area, hidden away. So it looks like our group of characters here have kind of thwarted that effort. Now the second dispatch, which was a little bit more recent, and it basically was instructing the orc leader to be on the lookout for a half-orc trader named Marizan, and to provide any assistance possible to the orc band that was tracking her. There was a rough description of Marizan provided within the dispatch, and Gilder, as he reads through it, he kind of looks up at Marizan and says, "You know what? They pretty much nailed your description pretty well." So, anyways, that was the second dispatch. And what else here? So, one of the mistakes I made while the group was attacking or was fighting with the Corporal Idemu, or the whites, was that when the second white had come in to join the battle, I forgot to do the cold spell effects that come with the white against the group. I did it for the first white when it got into range of our characters, but I forgot to do it for the second white. So, anyways, that little minor thing, but basically forgot about that. So, what else? And then the other thing I was going to mention was that the corporal Idemu were fighting with Talwars, and the Talwars plus the suits of chainmail, the two suits of chainmail, and the one bow that wasn't magical that were found within that barrow or that crypt were of ancient and exceptional quality. So they're basically of a quality that can be enchanted if Gildor or some other caster or mage wanted to enchant those items. So that's a future possibility for our group, anyways. And what else was there? When I was doing the treasure hoard, or the items that were found within that barrel, what I forgot to do was actually roll for the. I'd mentioned that there was a magic scimitar in there and a magic bow. What I didn't actually do is roll for the statistics of those two items. Basically, the magic experience level and the expertise level that they were created at. Go into book 4. So for those magic items, and we get to right. So the magic items. So as a general rule, the MEL is going to be 2d6, and the EL is going to be a d10, and the EL can't exceed half the maximum EL possible for something is half the MEL rounded up. So for if it was like MEL 11, the maximum EL would be 6. If it was MEL 10, the maximum EL would be 5. So for the 2 items that I rolled up there, one was the scimitar, and the scimitar ended up being an MEL 11 EL 5 scimitar, and the bow ended up being an MEL 10 EL 5 bow. So what that did for these things is it gave them a +6 to hit with the scimitar and +6 to hit with the bow. It was yeah, and then of course the fatigue value of the scimitar came a 20, and the weapon strength bonus of the scimitar is +3 or +4 if it's used from horseback. And the bow has a weapon strength bonus of +3, and that was the only modifications from the spell there. So was that piece. Now, death by healing. So I mentioned in the past that getting too many healing spells cast on you on your character, or a character having too many healing spells cast on them could actually runs the risk of killing the character. So basically the way that works is there we go. Basically the way that works is the formula works out to percentage chance being the Constitution times 2 minus the damage that the character has taken times the number of heals that they've gotten that day less, and with the first one not counting. So it's essentially the heals -1. So we walk through Marizan's case. He's got a particularly exceptional Constitution at 90. So she starts at 180% chance of not dying. And that, of course, that first heal is at 0. So it's minus 0. Now, on the second heal, it's going to be 180 minus, this will be the second heal, so it's going to be the damage that she's taken, which was 23 in that case. So we're going to have a 157% chance. So again, she's not too worried about the second heal. And she got 4 heals that day. So the third one, we're looking at this point, we're looking at 180 minus 46. So at that point, she's got 134% chance. Again, she's not too worried about it. On the fourth heal that she got, the last one, we were at 180 minus, what does that work out to? 69. Oops. So that gives us 111%. Now, we ended up stopping at that point because she was basically healed up. But had she done a fifth one, this was the first point at which she had a chance of actually dying from the healing spell. So that was -92. So she had an 88% chance of not dying. Now you can tell if your Constitution isn't anywhere near like the 90 that Marizan had. If we look at Gildor, he's got a Constitution of 39, so he's fine with the first heal, but he's probably not going to want another heal that day because it's going to be 78 minus whatever damage he's taken that he's trying to heal. So a fairly decent chance of not surviving that a second healing being cast on him. Raffin, on the other hand, he's got a 56 Constitution, so 112% minus, depending on how much damage he's taken. If it's 12 points or less, he's probably not too worried about the second heal. If it's more than that, he may not want a chance getting another heal cast on him. So, anyways, that is how the death by healing in Powers and Perils could affect a character. And then, last but not least, I went through, double-checked all the experience totals and calculations and everything that were on the scratch paper that I had, bit of a mess, but and I've updated all the character sheets. I'll just quickly go through these guys, and I've highlighted the cells that changed. We'll start with Gildor. Well, Gildor ended up with 5 characteristics from the combat experience points that he got, and he ended up with 1 characteristic from casting some spells. So his strength went up. He's added points to his strength, points to his agility and intelligence, and to his empathy. And that's basically changed his influence chance, his portage ability, his combat experience level, or his combat experience points went up to 843, which means his combat experience level went up by 1, which also affects his OCV and DCV. I don't remember if I had updated these previously, but his mana level is now 13. His magic defense value is now 16, and those affect his energy level and his casting ability and his mana regen from some of the characteristic changes. His banded heater shield went up EL 1. It was EL 0 before. And basically that armor value for the shield and the 1 for the EL means that he's got a DR and EL kind of a resistance there, total of 11. And I've added the magic scimitar and the magic bow to his character sheet. He's the only one that's actually proficient in using a scimitar at this point. And chances are he's going to be staying more out of combat and letting Raffen and Marizan do the tanks. And he'll either be casting spells or probably shooting the bow from behind. On the next page, so his max went to EL4, so that's now maxed out based on his strength and stamina. And his strength and stamina are now maxed, so until he works on either his multipliers or his native abilities, these scores aren't going to be changing. And it's going to be a long time before he'll even look at those. He'll need to be maxing out his current abilities and things like that before he's too concerned about trying to modify his these other stats. His heater shield went from EL 0 to EL 1. And on this side, his healing spell went from EL 1 to EL 2. And he's got 8 expertise points towards his next EL so far. And then cleaned up his inventory a bit. He's shuffled a few things now that they're going to be traveling. He's shuffled a few things, spare armor and some of the other items down to the horse. So he's not carrying quite as much stuff. Next up, Raffen. So Raffen didn't get that much. Added in his common experience points. He hasn't gone up a level yet. He's added 1 point, I believe it was 1 or 2 points anyways, to his stamina and to his will. Changed his energy level and his healing chance. And let's see, his bastard sword has gone up from EL 6 to EL 7. And so that's the same for both of those. On this side, his max is 8 on his bastard sword, so he can still go up. What else? I think that's it. And again, similar to Gildor, I cleaned up some of the items he's carrying, so moved a few things down to his to the mount, to the horse. He's carrying one of the 2 Talwars, and Gildor's carrying one of the 2 Talwars, just to kind of split the load a bit. And now for Marizan. So Marizan didn't get a whole lot out of that last battle, so I've added in her combat experience points, added 1 to her strength. Her portage ability went up a little bit, by 1 probably. And I think that was it for changes on this page. Over here, she's got some expertise points for her broadsword and for her heater shield. And during that week, she had also trained in that Teamster, so now her Teamster starting EL 35. So for these non-combat skills so combat skills start at EL 0 when you learn it. For the general skills, it starts at a starting EL, which in this case for Teamster is the better of stamina or will. And at the time she learned her Teamster, her stamina, oh actually no, that's right, her stamina is 35, so it's based on her 35 there. And again, just cleaned up her inventory, moved some things onto the horse as they prepare to travel. So that is our updates for the character sheets. And now we're going to pull up some of our other tools here and carry on with the adventuring. We'll be right back with some switches here. All right. So when last we left our intrepid adventurers, Gilder, Raffin, and Marizan had made it to the area of the barrows. They found the barrow with the exposed entrance, where they proceeded to go in and had to deal with two corporal edimu, or basically wights. They also managed to find some magic, some equipment, various gems, jewels, and some coins. They returned to Gold Edge and updated the guard captain, who basically said that they would be sending out a team the next day, some sappers or whatever, to close up the barrow, and a few guards to help protect them. Hopefully they don't run into any other undead or other creatures that could cause them any problems. The trio returned to the inn. They ended up paying for the rooms for another night. Had settled in, had their meals and all the rest. While they were there, the innkeeper had approached them with a letter. Basically, within it, it had the seal of Sir Eric Rothak, or also known as Eric the Red. And inside it was essentially a summons for them to come to Caer Keton and to meet with him, and something about a proposal or something like that for their group. So they made some plans to head out in the morning. And so that basically wraps up the June the 14th. So we'll pick up with the next day here. So we'll go through our daily steps. So any sort of skill gains, they basically had been traveling through, again, forested hills. So I'll be giving them each their one expertise point in both forest and in hills. So Gildor, 1 point there, forest. And of course 1 point in carrying. Raffin, 1 point in forest, 1 point in hills, and 1 point in carrying. And Marizan. And she's maxed out in both of her forest and hills. That's basically 2 combat experience points for her. Right, next up. Food points used. They would have used essentially half their food point requirements as they were traveling around during the day. So Gilder, of course, is just 1/4. Raffin is 2, and Marizan is 1.5. All right, for the current day, let's do our weather. It's going to be 2d6. We just had a sunny, breezy day, and we're doing a 10. The 10 takes us up into that puts us on, that put us on this one or this one? Say this one. So it is a day with a heavy rain and strong winds. So it sounds like not a great traveling day. I think they're going to end up staying at the inn that day, doing a little bit more recovery, whatever else that they plan to do there. I guess they don't head out this day. Fair weather travelers is my take on them. But this is a day for Gilder to be doing his knowledge spell. So that morning within his room, we'll take care of that in just a sec here. So mana regen and energy level regen. So he's getting 6 back. He's at 49 out of 65. But he's also about to spend a bunch. First up with the knowledge spell. Oops. Book 2. So the knowledge spell itself needs an area. It needs to be cast in an area that's purified for the specific alignment that he's casting it at. So we'll do a purification. Start with. So Gilder's purification is he's going to do Elder. Heal 0, 2 base mana cost of 2. So base mana cost 2, a DL 0 is going to cost 2. And let's see if that works for him. So he is MEL 5. He's casting at DL 0, so no subtraction. He's not casting it on himself, so his MTV doesn't provide a bonus to him. And we basically have a 50% chance. 93. Well, it's a failure. Not an abysmal, which is a bonus. So he will try that again, spending 2 more mana. 37. So he gets his purification off. His first roll wasn't within 25%, so it would have had to have been 75, between 51 and 75 for him to get 1 expertise in the spell the first time. But the second time around, he's going to get 4 expertise, and other than spending 2 more mana, he's going to be getting 4 magic experience points. Okay, now he's casting his knowledge spell. So knowledge, where are you? Right, so the knowledge spell. Well, actually, let's start over here. So his knowledge spell at Elder is base mana cost 5. So it's basically going to cost him 5 mana. And this one he is casting on himself, so I'm going to give him his MDV. Okay, so again with the knowledge spell, we're subtracting his MDV from the roll because he's casting it essentially on himself. So we have a 40, so 24, which is a success. And basically, what does knowledge do for us? So he was actually using that knowledge to start learning the tongue of Dvalin, which is a Dwarvish language, essentially, but it's a supernatural language that he can use for things like permanent magics and a few other things. And casting knowledge at EL 0 basically gives him a D6 plus EL in whatever it is that he's gaining knowledge in. So, and then of course he can cast it every 15 days, which is kind of why he's on a bit of a schedule for ensuring that he's casting it. All right, so let's see what he gets. And we end up with a 6. Bonus. So plus 6. And that puts him at Let's total this up. So he's used 58. All right. We've done a mana, natural healing. I know that Raffin is going to do his healing check. 47%. I'm fairly certain he had a heal spell cast on him yesterday, which would probably subtract or increase his healing chance by about 10 or something like that. But he rolls a 40 anyway, so he's successful. So he gets a D3 plus his stamina bonus in hit points back. So 2, so 4 back. And like I said, I'm pretty sure he had a healing spell on him, which would have increased his stamina by at least +1 or +2. So I'm just going to say that he's healed back up to full. Okay, spellcasting, did all that. And so their plans for the day, with the torrential downpour that's coming down, for the heavy rains anyways, they are going to stick around in Gold Edge for another day and spend another night here. So that's going to cost them another 1.5 silver. So let's back to there, add 5 copper coins. And the rest of that day probably goes by uneventfully. I can't imagine much happening in the town. 70. So we are heading to the next day. Now we are on to the 16th of June. And we'll start out with our weather roll for the day. And we have a 4. 4 sends us back down to where we came from. And looks like a good travel day. No expertise gains for that day. They didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything. Actually, you know what? I am going to... I'll have spent the day basically doing some training or something like that. So what can they train each other in? Actually, they are going to work on getting Gilder trained up in horsemanship. So he'll get 2 partial in that. Spend some time at the stables and out and about, running around through the muddy streets and whatnot. Got a weather mana regen. Weather's getting 6 points back. No other healing, no spell casting for that day. Gilder's going to try and refrain from some spell casting for the next few days so that he can kind of regain some of that mana pool that he's got. And of course, they are going to head out. So let's go back to our Fantasy Ground maps. So they're basically here in Gold Edge, and they're basically, it's 5 mile hexes. So they're 15 miles away from Caer, which is the kind of the capital city, main castle area for the kingdom. And that'll probably take just over half a day to get there. They're on a road. They're traveling through out of the hills here, through a bit light forest and into the plains. And with the horse, typically you can travel about 20 miles per day. So let's see if they get an encounter. Okay, get rid of our dice here. So we are on a roadway. Oops, where's my roadway? Roadway. Base encounter chance. 0 to 6 is a creature. 7 to 30 is human. Oh, 0, 6. So we have a creature. And I think I know exactly what creature I want to throw at these guys. So let me quickly just prepare an encounter here. And I'll be right back. Right, so our characters have headed out from Gold Edge, proceeding down the road on their way to Caer, Keton, and probably mid-morning or so, maybe late morning, somewhere in there, they are just coming out of the light trees and about to approach into the plains area when they encounter a rather large creature that has the head of a human, the body of a lion, and the tail of a scorpion. It basically looks like, or kind of like, this is the D&D version, but the manticore within Powers and Perils actually has a scorpion tail. It doesn't have spikes or whatever that this one would be throwing. So, anyways, close enough image. So the manticore isn't in the core rules for Powers and Perils. It is a kind of a new creature that was me and a past friend had added into the game. Where is it? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, the manticore has a average hit points of 34, OCV of 11. I've got all the relevant stats here on the page. And there's just one of them. The interesting thing about this guy is the scorpion tail on it has a BL6 death poison. So we'll see if that comes into play here, or how that comes into play here in this next combat. So, as I said, they're kind of making their way down the road. Raffin is leading. Gildor is kind of in the middle of these guys. They're basically because Gildor's somewhat inept on a horse. They're in front of him and behind him, just making sure that he doesn't fall off or do something strange. And we have our Manticore encounter. Our encounter distance is going to be basically planes, and 2d6 plus 20 inches away, which is going to be 28 inches away. I'm not going to put that on the map just yet, but so this Manticore is actually flying, and his flight movement rate is 24. So this first phase, he's going to be going 6. He sees our group of adventurers here and makes a beeline towards them. So he's somewhere off in the distance. So in phase 1, our characters here will dismount from the horses, grab their bows, and be ready to take some shots at this thing as soon as he gets within a decent range. So Gildor, with his Gildor's going to use his bow. So he'll wait for I guess he'll start shooting at long range. So once he's within 20, so that's going to be a couple phases from now. Raffin, on the other hand, he's shooting at the long range at 28, so that's going to be minus 10 line. Geez, this might even be over before the creature can even get close to them. On the minus 10 line. Actually, I don't need the map right now, so let's flip back to the full screen here. Okay. All right, so Raffin is got a bow skill, or longbow skill of 5, so he's subtracting 5 from his roll. That's going to be a 26 on the -10 line. -10 line. And a 26 is going to be a shield hit. This thing doesn't have a shield, obviously, so we're doing some damage. And our longbow is going to be d6 plus 1. 2 points. And I have a feeling this thing, well, actually this thing has a natural armor value of 1, so -1 point for Raffin with the longbow. And Marizan with her longbow. She's got a longbow skill of 7. And that's going to be a miss, I'm sure. On the -10 line. Yeah, she's going to need a 30 to get to be able to hit. So that is the end of phase 1, and this thing's moved up to 22. Right, phase 2, missile fire. And again, we're shooting at, even if they fire during the movement melee phase, this thing will only be at, actually they'll wait, yeah, that's what they'll do. They won't fire during the missile fire. They'll wait for movement melee, get this thing to move a little bit closer, and then they'll fire at it. So that'll be at 16 inches. So let's flip back to Kildor. At 16 inches, that puts the creature at long range, which is on the -18 line for a bow. He has a bow skill of zip, but his magic bow gives him a +6 to hit, so essentially -6 on his roll. So on the -18 line with -6, 58 is going to be a miss. Raffin at 16, that's still in the long range. So that is 60. Yeah, that's going to be a miss. And Marizan, let's do this again. 5, that'll be interesting. So she's on the -10 line, subtracting 7. And that's going to be -2, so just a severe. So a severe hit for Raffin with the longbow is going to be d10 plus 5. So 7 points, 6 of which get through. So that's Marizan with the longbow. All right, next phase, phase 3. Then they're going to fire during the movement melee round, or part of the phase. That's going to be at 10 inches. So Gilder at 10 inches is going to be in the medium range. So he's on the -6 line with the -6 to his roll. And -6 line, -6, that's still going to be a miss. And okay, so Raffin at 10 inches, that's still medium. He's on the 0 with the -5 to his roll. And the 0, so that's going to be a shield hit, so a hit. Dice 6 plus 1. 7 points. So 6 points, 6 get through. And that's for Raffin with the longbow. And Marizan with her -7 on the 0 line. It's going to be a 18. And that's going to be a regular hit as well. Wow. And she is doing a d6 + 1, so 7 points. Will 6 of that get through as well? That's Marizan with the longbow. This thing's getting the snot beat out of it. Okay, so we are on to the next phase. So I think phase 4. So mana allocation. I think Gildor is going to start casting a spell. No, actually, Gildor's going to use his bow. Except he will fire in the movement melee phase. Raffin and Mirazan are going to... You know what? They're going to shoot their bows as well, so... This thing moves up. It's going to be 4 inches. So Gildor. At 4 inches, you are in the short range, which is on the +4 line. You're subtracting 6 from your roll. Going to be a 22 on the +4 line. Going to be a regular hit. Well, he was looking for, just needing the experience. And this thing is doing, the magic bow is doing a d6 + 3. So that's going to be 4 points of which get through. Going to be with Gildor with the bow. And this thing is not going to back off. So Raffin at a range of 4. Oops, where'd Raffin go here? Range of 4 is going to be short on the +8 line. It's going to be 84, a miss. And Marizan, 99, that's going to be a miss. All right, so they are switching to their weapons. And we will map this out at this point. So let's go back to Fantasy Grounds. We've got our little group of archers here. And we have this thing going to be 40 feet away. Uh, $35. There we go, 40 feet. Okay, so mana allocation, we're not doing any. Gildor's saving his mana at this point, and he doesn't want to use any today if he can help it. Raffin and Marizan, actually they've all switched to their melee weapons. So we are, this thing flies in. It's got when it's flying, it has a OCV of 11. Well, actually, it's got an OCV of 11, regardless of whether it's flying. And with the OCV of 11, it is basically has an attack priority of 5, whereas the rest of our guys are a little bit different. So Gildor's attack priority is 5 with his scimitar. Raffin's attack priority is going to be 5 with his bastard sword. Actually, what is he using? He is using... You know what? For shits and giggles here, he's going to use his fighting dagger, so he's attack priority of 10. No, that doesn't seem right. He's going to use his magic bastard sword on this thing. He's attack priority of 5. And Marizan is attack priority of 4. So this thing swoops in on them. Its first round of attacks, it has a DCV of 10 because it's flying in, and it's going to be raking with its claws. If it survives this next phase, then it will be on the ground and using its scorpion tail. So it flies in on these guys. And I guess when it's that close, I could probably flip back to the full screen here and pretty much ignore the map itself. Now, Marizan is the first to swing at it. So, she is OCV 9, it is DCV 10, so she's on the -2 line. She is subtracting 7 for her EL and 6 for the magic sword, broadsword that is. She's -13. We have multiple opponents on this thing, so another -5. So she is -18 on this roll. And 61 is probably going to be a miss. All right. Oh, so this is, I remember if I knocked off those phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, yeah, okay, so we're on phase 1, round 2. Next up, I guess it really doesn't matter because both Raffen and Gildor are tied. We'll just go with top here on Gildor. He's using the magic scimitar. He's -6 on his roll. He's OCV 7 versus DCV 10. He's on the -3 line. 66 on the -3. He needs a whole lot of minuses, so that's going to be a miss. Raffen. He is -11, -16. Probably going to be a hit. And Raffen is OCV 10, so he's on the 0 line. At a 40 something, that's going to be a shield hit, so it's just a regular hit. And he is doing d6 plus 5, so 6 points. 5 of which get through, so Raffen with his bastard sword. So what are we at? 10, 27, 28? All right, okay, and I guess this thing gets to attack. So it is going to be attacking based on how that map was set up. Either going to be Raffen or Marizan. So 1 to 3 Raffen. It is Raffen. Raffen's DCV is 9, and this thing is on the +3 line with an OCV of 11. It is subtracting 3 from his roll. 41, so 38 on the +3 line. That's going to be a shield hit. And it is doing a die 6 plus 2. 7 points. Raffen's shield is total of 12, so that's actually do 1 point of damage to his shield. But doesn't break it and doesn't get through. All right. Next phase. A little bit of movement. They are going to try and surround this thing. It's going to likely just keep attacking Raffen. It doesn't really have a reason to change. Actually, I guess as soon as they start moving, it's probably going to start moving as well. So I don't think they're going to be able to get a flank attack on this thing. I think it's got an intelligence of 6, so I think it's smart enough not to let a creature get behind it. Sorry, I didn't. So they've kind of shuffled around a bit, and they're they're still basically in the front 60-degree arc of this creature. And it will, actually a 1 to 4, it's going to be Raffen, 5, it's going to be Gildor, and 6 is going to be Marizan. Yep, still Raffen. All right, so Marizan has the first attack on this. So that's going to be what was she on? She's on the, well, DC is now 8 since it's on the ground. It is using its tail this time around. So she's on the +1 line. That's definitely going to be a shield hit. Yep. And she is doing die 6 + 6. This is likely going to finish this thing. Oh, no, maybe not. 7. So 6 get through. And that is with her broadsword. We're at 34, so it's at 0. You know what? I think it's going to be a goner this round. So Gildor swings 64 on the -3 line. Nope, sorry, -1 line. So 64, 58 on the -1 line. Maybe a miss. Unfortunate. And last but not least, Raffen. That's going to be a shield hit as well. And that's going to basically finish this guy off. So that's going to be 5 points. So 4 points get through. And that's exactly what it had left for DTV -4. So Raffen with his bastard sword. All right. Well, that was short-lived. Just gonna, you know what? Gonna say the attack was simultaneous and just see what this guy can do to Raffen, if anything. So OCV 11 versus his DCV 9. And he's got -3. So he's on the +2 line. 56 is going to be a miss. Raffen's shield skill is 2 + 2, so 4. So its +1 is roll 57. The +2 line is going to be a miss. Right, so that basically finishes off this guy. If it hadn't been that far away, this probably would have been a little bit more of an interesting battle. But the way the poison works on this thing, so if he was to actually hit with his tail, he delivers a BL6 death poison. And the death poison, let me just quickly find that here. If I flip over to the main books here, page 102, so poison. So death poison, you lose a die 10 plus the BL, which is 6 in this case. So die 10 plus 6 energy points per 2 phases until the victim either hits 0 or less, and then they're dead. The only thing that Gildor can do to kind of assume, you know, if Raffen was to have gotten poisoned, Gildor can do is use his healing mist, and per 4 phases, he could start trying to ward off that BL6 death poison. And Raffen would be losing up to 16 energy level, and he's only got an energy level 67. So he's got a pretty good chance of actually getting killed by this if it was to have gotten to him. So the way the poison itself works is it uses the magic table. So BL6 is just the baseline. So let's just say Raffen got hit by the tail. Raffen has a poison resistance of 10. That adds 10 to the roll. And a 26, basically. Whoops. A 26 would have been a success. So in that phase, he would have lost 13 energy level. And then every 2 phases after that, I'd be rolling another d10 worth of energy loss. And depending on how things went, that has probably the potential of killing Raffen. So, but anyways, the Manticore is dead. And what do we got here? So, Raffen. He's got 1, 7, what's that, 12, 16 points of damage that he's done to this thing. So that is going to be worth, what's the combat difficulty factor? 6. That's going to be 86 combat experience points. He is getting 12 expertise with his longbow and 12 with his bastard sword. Gildor is getting a total of 24 combat experience points and 12 with his bow. And Marizan, he's done, let's see, 6, 12, 18. Oops, total of 18. Oops, 18. So that's going to be worth, let's see, what is that? 48, 108? Why does this not look right then? 60 plus 3, oh, that's 96. That sounds better. And she is getting 12 with her longbow and 12 with her broadsword. Too bad Gildor didn't hit. He could use that experience with his that scimitar, because he's only got an EL 0 in it. Okay, so I'll, and of course this is going to be 2 characteristics. That'll be 1 characteristic, and this will be 2 characteristics. Had that been 110 as opposed to 108, that would have been 3. So it's per 50 with a minimum of 10. Okay, so I will add those into the character sheets for the next time around, but basically these guys will finish off their travel to Keton, and next time around we will pick up with getting into the city, going to meet up with Eric the Red, and finding out what's happening next with them. So again, thanks for joining me guys today, and happy trails.